Okay, so good afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here. Just needless to say, just happy to win this past weekend and be 2-0 at this point. And going into the game, we knew it was going to take great effort and great focus on our part to be successful. And certainly, we knew we were going into a challenging environment. It was hot. Fan base that's really engaged, and a veteran team that's extremely talented. So we knew what the challenges were. Thought our special teams were really big in our success, certainly. Starting with our specialist, Torrey did a great job. Happy to see him recognized by the Big Ten, and he just did a great job, affecting field position all day long for us. Certainly Caleb did a nice job also out there, this field goals and kickoffs, and Charlie Jones continues to play really well too. So happy about those guys, and our core players are doing a really nice job. They're working at it and making a difference in the game, so that was good. Defensively, for the most part, played really well. Laps there before the half, gave up a big play, which was really costly, and we didn't finish the game out real well either in the fourth quarter. But a lot of good things there, and then offensively, some good effort, some good plays. Certainly, we don't have the consistency we need right now, and that'll come hopefully. And then part of that too is certainly a credit to Iowa State and their defensive ball club's been really, really good. They're a tough group to move the ball against, and consistency is, it's tough to come by when you play them. So, shifting gears right now with Kent State coming in, first and foremost, just compliments to their program. Coach Lewis has really done a good job, and I think one stat that really stood out to me was the fact that last year that was only the second time they've had consecutive back-to-back winning seasons since the 70s, and that's a long time. Coach James got that started out there, and that's a big gap. And I think it just tells you a little bit about what the coaching staff's done, their vision coming in, and then more importantly, the player buy-in to that vision. And they've done a really good job there, certainly over the last couple of years. They're an offensive-minded attack group, and Coach Lewis, that's his background. Up-tempo, RPOs, they've got a good line. The line coach is a guy I've known for quite a while, Coach O'Boyle, and he's a tremendous football coach, good skill players. And then certainly the quarterback is an outstanding football player, and a big part of what they do. He really kind of makes them go. It's not the same as when we played Mississippi State a couple of years ago, but not the same attack, but similar in that quarterback really was the catalyst to that football team all season long, and you can see it right now, certainly with this guy. Defensively, another multiple front team. They give you a lot of different looks. They're unique compared to the teams that we're used to playing, I guess. And it's kind of like we've had very different preparations now. And, so that's a challenge for us. And then on top of that, I think you probably noticed they're great in the takeaway column. They're second in the country, I believe, right now with takeaways. So it just tells you a little bit about their ball hawking ability. They're opportunistic very both corners, I think, have 3 picks. So that's pretty impressive right there. And then special teams, same thing. They take a really aggressive approach. They're very, very aggressive. Their players, you can see they've bought in to what they're selling in that regard. And so they're three different phases that all play well together and present some challenges. And, George Barnett on our staff has been in that league the last 7 years or so, and their feeling going into this year was that this team would be a leading candidate for the team of the year, and they certainly felt the quarterback was as good a player as there was in the conference. So that's what we're up against this week, and it'll be a big challenge for us. Captains are the same 4 as we had last week. We got Tyler Linderbaum, Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner, Spencer Petras, and then also Ivory Kelly Martin is also the 5th captain. He got enough votes there to be a captain, so add him to the mix, and that's a good thing. Injury-wise, I think we're fairly healthy. Guys nicked up coming out of that game, as you might imagine. Everybody's able to practice today, and Kyle Rashad is working back. He started working back last week. Got some work in last week. He'll play some this week. I don't know how much, but he'll play some, and be good to get him back with the team, certainly. That'll be a good thing. And then last but not least, our kid captain this week, I don't want to say her name incorrectly, Galilea Gonzalez, young lady who's a 10-year-old, had heart surgery her first week after birth, and she's a 10-year-old, healthy 10-year-old right now, and from Cedar Falls, so I'm guessing Jack Campbell might be her favorite Hawkeye. I'm just guessing on that one, but it'll be great to have her with us on Saturday. And I'll throw it out for questions.
their tempo is well known. I think it's between 15 and 18 seconds from snap to snap. How challenging is that? Because it could be another hot day, and then kind of at the end of the game, you almost saw that same type of tempo from Iowa State just in the fourth quarter. So do you feel like you at least got a chance to compete against something like that?
Yeah, we didn't do so well against it either, but it's always a challenge, and the challenge starts on Monday. It's hard to simulate that. Just like if you play an option team, it's hard to simulate. So, there are things you do in practice, but you can't get it just the way it's going to be during game time. But it's one more adjustment. It's one more uniqueness. It seems like we've had weeks of uniqueness here in our preparation. But the biggest concern for me, I think for all of us, is the quarterback, just the way he plays. The things that he does. Is pretty much. That's where it all starts. It doesn't end there, but it starts there for sure. And that's part of it too. You need a quarterback with confidence and savvy to run a tempo offense like that.
Kirk, is there any concern right now for the offense? Just kind of seems stagnant a little bit for the first couple games.
Concern's not the right word, but certainly interest. And as I mentioned, I think the biggest thing right now is consistency. We've done some good things at times, and then other times not so good. But I can't tell you it's unpredicted or unexpected. I just I look at our football team and going back to coming out of August, we're young in both lines in a lot of areas. From an experience standpoint. You look at the offensive line, you take a shot out of there, which we had the last couple of weeks. So, we expected some bumps, at least I did. Thought that was going to be part of the process. I'm really kind of pleased, actually, with the way the guys have held up. We knew Saturday would be a tough contest because of the people we were playing against and the whole picture of it. I thought they did a lot of good things, and what I would be concerned about is if we don't see continual growth, and that's kind of what we're banking on here as we move forward. And that's for our whole football team, but especially up on both lines, because that's where it really shows a little bit more than other places. And I think if we can, continue to grow and continue to improve, we'll have a chance to be a good offensive football team.
A couple of freshmen on that offensive line that played a lot. You got to see 2 games out of Mason Richmond and even Connor Colby. Yep. I don't think I'm forgetting any of the freshmen, but what are you seeing from them and just what their roles will be going?
Yeah, just like the way they do things, and that includes practice. It starts with practice, actually. Just the way they work in practice, and a little different in the terms of Connor's a little bit younger. He's been here less and less practice time, game time, but Mason's got a little better sense of what we're doing and how to do it, all that type of thing. But both those guys have done a really good job, and they're not overwhelmed by it. And one thing about Mason, and this is important for every player. Goes back to camp. Van Valkenburg really worked him. I think it was on a Monday, the second week or whatever. And the next day he came back and he stood right up to it, and did a really nice job. So it didn't. He had some scar tissue, but it didn't. He didn't carry it with him. And that's what you're looking for in players. A guy to come back and take the challenge and try to learn from what might have gone wrong. And that's kind of how he's wired. And does a lot of really good things out there. So he's coming right along and. I've pretty much seen improvement in all these guys. I think all of us have seen that improvement, but we got a lot of room to grow right now.
When's the last time you've started an offensive line this young, especially to open the season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably could think of that in a minute. Yeah, it is. Well, it goes right back to when Jackson and Worst were playing tackle for us. It's another moment walking out to the field behind Boone Meyer and Ike Bacher. We're both in sweats, right? And it dawned on me, okay, here's 2 fifth-year guys that aren't playing, and we got 2 as a first year and a second year, kind of the same as a tandem we just talked about, that were starting for us. And it just, and those guys are really good players. They're both NFL players today, but they weren't then. They were young guys who were learning how to play. And they did a really nice job. I think it was 17. But you pay some dues along the way, and we paid for it then too. But it paid off for us down the road. So just it's part of the territory sometimes.
Give a ballpark number of how many players that you've signed over the years who've either been verbally committed to MAC teams or have MAC teams as their number one choice.
Yeah, I can't give you a ballpark number, but I've joked about that a lot of times with our staff that we waste a lot of time recruiting. We should just wait till the MAC schools get their guys lined up, and then we should go poach before signing day and try to. I swear to God, I wonder about that sometimes. I call it the MAC All-Stars, but you could field and go. There's an article a couple of years ago about one of the Super Bowls where they went through all the guys in the MAC, from schools from the MAC, and I'll tell you, it was very impressive. I'll go back to 20-some years ago when I got here. The best quarterbacks in the country were in the MAC, starting with Roethlisberger, and Marshall had a couple. Who am I leaving out? But they've had some really good players in that league, and we've especially Kent State, ironically, Jovan Johnson, Terry Roberts. I mean, we've snagged a couple guys from them. So I say it half jokingly, but that's how fine a line it is in recruiting too, and what you can't measure a lot of times are intangibles with players. And Jovan's a good example. He's maybe a half a step slow, quote unquote, but he played pretty good for us for 4 years, and then made a long living in the CFL.
Just all's fair, and I know players have verbally committed to Iowa and then gone elsewhere.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
is it just law of the jungle, or
It is. I mean, to me, it's recruiting. I coached at Maine 3 years, and if a Division I school offered one of our guys after they committed, big fish eat little fish, and that's just how it works. And we've had players taken by other quote unquote other universities that were more noted, and I'm thinking of one in particular. We were down in Tampa. This is probably like in 2008, I think, at that game. We had a tight end committed, and a bigger school took him, and I'm not sure they even needed him. I think they just wanted to make sure we didn't get him. I really believe that. But nonetheless, we didn't get him, and so that's just you can't. That's like recruiting until guys sign the papers. Nothing's written in ink, literally written in ink. So that's the way it goes.
And one more question in this vein. If you see that a player has like 3 or 4 offers from MAC schools, does that make you think maybe we should take a look?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who it is. I'm not big on that game as far as like, copying. Recruiting's a big copycat business. So-and-so offers, so we got to offer. But there are a couple schools in the country that if they have offers from those schools, like I'll pay attention a little bit. That carries some validity. But it still gets down. I think probably the rest of the story on that is like watching guys through their senior year, which is really how recruiting should be done, like it used to be 40 years ago. Let guys play their whole careers and then evaluate them. That's what the NFL does, and you get a better picture of the guy after his senior year. We've had a lot of guys in state here the same way that we've offered in January and even in February at times that end up being really good football players. George Kittle, I mean, just there's one that comes to mind, right? Going to Weber State, and I'm sure Weber's not happy with us, but I think they understand too. It was probably a better deal for George, and turned out really well. And then he kept getting better. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a dynamic process with these guys.
One of those guys, the 4-year guy, was Riley Moss, who I think kind of surprised a lot of people. We saw on a piece of paper on signing day.
Yep.
He was a 2-star, really good track athlete. What did you see with him? Did you expect him to play defensive back right away, or was he one of those, hey, he's a good athlete, we'll kind of work him in wherever he ends up?
Yeah, we were thinking defensive back, and I think it was just about this time, it was sometime in September, I believe, when we did offer him. I can't remember who went to the game, but somebody saw him, it was an early season game. And, we just kind of reassessed things a little bit. And again, that's where, your senior tape means a lot. It really means a lot. And having players in our camp helps us because at least we get a feel for their personalities and those types of things. But, we weren't sure about Riley, but pretty sure now. That was I'm glad we offered him. And, he's a great kid besides being a really good football player.
In that class in particular, you had, a 4-star and a couple from Indianapolis who were really highly sought after, yet he kind of vaulted past them. I mean, not anything about those two, but in particular, but with him, what did he do so well early on to put himself in this position to now where he's a starting corner?
He just came in and went to work, and it's like everything in life, you got to realize if you're trying to do something competitive, what you did yesterday is important because you could be proud of it and all that, but what's in front of you is probably more important, and that's the hardest part. And sometimes guys don't have that ability to keep that in mind. Like it's not over; it's a start of something. And this is the start of a new chapter. So you get measured by what you do. Once you get on campus, and I think that's why walk-ons have done well here too, is we'll look at everybody with a fresh eye, at least try to. And, whether you're a first-year guy or a fifth-year guy, like it's opportunity out there, it's a new start, and you get a chance to go. So it's just what you do with that opportunity.
Most of the players that you recruit, do they understand the tempo that it takes to play at this level, or is that something you guys have to teach them when they get here?
Some do, but not many. And it's just, I mean, it's not a knock on anything or anybody. It's just the speed of things is a little different. This is college football has changed so much too. Last 40 years or 50 years, just incredible changes. It's a year-round activity now. So it's a lot. You got to go to school. That's a lot, and then you're expected held to a higher standard than the average student. So, and nobody's complaining about that, but there's just a lot on everybody's plate. So it takes some guys just walk in and have no problem with it, and other guys, it takes a while to get traction and gain traction. And sometimes you see it in careers too, like, where guys just are kind of like, spinning their tires a little bit, and then might be year 3, 4, or 5 where they really take off and go. So as long as a player's trying, you just never know what's going to happen, how they'll develop. And but it's hard to really, prepare somebody for that until you do it. It's like anything, it's hard to do. Until you start trying to do it, it's hard to appreciate it. And the guys go to the NFL go through the same thing. Yeah, they're prepared, but it's still, you can't, the speed of everything is just a little bit different, so it's part of the acclimation process.
You've been ranked high before in your career, but not ever this early in the season this high. Do you think, what does it take, I guess, for players, I got 100-some guys, to handle those types of high rankings? What?
Yeah, to get 100 of them to understand that's probably, we're betting a low percentage on that one. Be really good. Probably the biggest message, and I would say the same to anybody that asks, at this time of year, and I've always said this, it's kind of like recruiting rankings. There's speculation, a lot of speculation, because nobody knows. And this time of year, I'd especially venture to say right now, there's probably a small handful of teams that are worthy of being ranked high. And I think after whatever it is, 3 or 4 teams, like it's a jump ball for a lot of teams. And, so right now it's really more about speculation, projection, but I know that. But I don't know, hopefully our players understand that. We've won 2 games and we're thrilled to death to be 2-0. It's the best you can be. But really it means nothing. We still could be, we still could be 2-10 mathematically, and then, run the whole gamut. So nobody's smart enough to know what it's going to look like in November or December. And, hopefully we're in that discussion, but there's a whole lot of work to do between now and then to still be relevant at that point.
I'm curious, your offense is kind of bottom of the Big Ten right now in rushing and passing. Of course, you faced 2 really tough defenses. Does the offense take longer to develop, or is it just testament to the defenses you faced?
A little bit of each probably. And, I think if I were coming in, or as we came into the season, my biggest concern was our inexperience on both lines. And still is that way. So I think that's where we have to gain ground. And I think, the guys did a really good job during the preseason. Thought we improved a lot and have improved a lot, and that's all you can ask. And we'll continue to improve, and we'll start to mesh a little bit better. And as long as we practice well, and then we've got to go out and play on Saturdays, because there's no substitute for it. And, game action and all that. And that's really what you're working for. So, I'm not standing here today saying, geez, I don't know if we're going to make it. I feel good about our chances, but of us becoming a very good offense. But we're not there yet, and I think we're all aware of the work that we need to do.
Kirk, in both week 1 and week 2, the officiating crew for your games has included a woman, which is becoming more and more common. But how important do you think it is for the young men in your program to see women in prominent roles in sports, especially in this day and age?
I think it's going to be 3 weeks in a row. I think I'm correct in saying that. So I got to be honest with you, I haven't thought a lot about that. All I hope for is that the people that have jobs do jobs well, and I think that's kind of hopefully how people look at the world in general. So I've got respect for any official, anybody that's working those games that works hard, and typically I can say this, being back now 20-some years, 22+ years, in our conference, we've had people that really, my sense is they're really committed. I can only think of one official in the last 23 years that I can't say nice things about, just as and he didn't last long in the league. I think other people figured it out too, but for the most part, these folks are out there working really hard, and it was a he. So I gave that one away, right? But they work hard. They care about what they do, and we have a crew in here every August. They come in when they work one of our scrimmages and do a clinic with us and educate us on the changes. And just when you get to see these guys in a professional environment like that, you really understand, they know the rules better than we do typically, and then also they take pride in that. They take a lot of pride in that. Robert Smith is a guy, obviously we know him very well because he's one of ours, and unfortunately we never get to benefit from his expertise because he's an Iowa grad, can't do our games. But I know just how serious he takes it all, and that's all you ask for anybody, whoever's working the games or, whatever role they may be in. I got total respect for people that are prepared and then go out and give their best effort.
Coach, if you think back to the 1981 Rose Bowl team, led by the defense, the punter was oftentimes maybe the best player on the field. Even though it's 40 years ago, is it fair to maybe draw some similarities from that team to this team?
I've already done that, behind the scenes, but just in a kind of joking way. I'm hoping our offense will develop. I think it will, but really, that's kind of how we won. We let Reggie, change field position. We had a defense that was extremely ornery, and then, when we got field position, we usually got points out of it, and played 2 quarterbacks that year. So things weren't perfect, but we found a way to get it done, and that's ultimately that's the objective, is to win games like that. It's not win at all costs, but we're keeping score, so we're trying to win each and every week, and that how you do it really doesn't matter to any of us. It's just about what can we do to be successful. And I'll go out on a limb here and say, one of these days we're going to be in one of those 41, 48 games too, which I hate, but it's going to come. And so it's just that's football. That's the ebb and flow of football. You never know what it's going to be, and really what good teamwork is everybody just kind of playing off the situation and getting the job done. But I don't mind telling you, having a punter who can impact field position is really, boy, it's a treat actually. And he's an unbelievable kid. He's just like, you guys have met him, right? He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. It's just unreal. What a great story.
Did you see this coming though from Torrey?
No, no, absolutely not. No. I was hoping he was good, but wow. And the best part, he has no idea what he's doing half the time. Just in terms of football, he does as a player, but this, the rest of this stuff is it's an adventure ride for him. He's enjoying life, and he's got such a good approach. Just really underwhelmed by all of it, just what he's doing. He just goes out and plays.
Sorry, I didn't. A lot of your defensive players have said that they're closer than ever this season, and I was wondering if you know what maybe contributed to that. Maybe was it last season? If you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, it starts with they take pride in what they do and what they're trying to accomplish, and they're a good group of guys. They're really and I'll start with Matt Hankins just to give an example. Had he left here after last season, I would not have been surprised. That is the trend right now for players to leave, and a national trend, not just here. That's just what young guys do now. I think that showed a lot of wisdom and judgment on his part, and probably 3 years ago he wouldn't have done that, I don't think, but that's the way he's evolved and developed. And so start there. You get a guy like him who's a really, really good player and a really good guy and a good leader. He's developed into a really strong leader. There's an example right there. All these guys are really unselfish guys. They just want to play hard. They don't care who does what. And they're generally happy for each other. And they're and it's good to see developing stories too, like Justin getting that play the other day. Last year it was Kerner knocked the ball out right on the turnover, and here's another one. Boy, those were huge plays in the game, both last year and this year. 2 different guys, Kerner last year, and now it's Justin Jacobs. So. Now it gives him a little bit of hey, I'm part of this. This is fun, all that kind of stuff. So we see that growing, and that's good to see.
Especially with the age of NIL, we're in a world where individualism is starting to take more value. How are you getting them to buy into this mindset that, it's not about individual statistics?
You can do both. You can be an NIL star, I guess. I guess you got to be savvy on social media. It sounds like that's a big part of it, and. But you can still be a good team person. And that's all we ask is when guys are in this building, when they're playing together in the huddle, that, they put all the other stuff aside. And our guys do a good job of that. They're really, I think, pretty good that way. But it starts with our leadership. I pointed out Matt or Jack or any of those guys. It just, when your older guys are on board, it really makes it a little bit better for everybody else.
Are you aware that one of your former players became a world champion last night?
Yeah, I saw the thing, but I'm not sure where the details, but I think that's awesome. Tor's a good guy. Yep.
What do you remember from him?
We recruited him late. Remember that? And then he had, so he had some real physical issues when he took a medical red shirt. So he had a tough challenge that way. But a great guy, a really great guy from Tampa area. And, I think it's really been neat that he's gone on and had all this great success. I don't follow that real closely. Is he the pancake guy? Or he's got, I know my wife's bought the truck, right? Those little trucks, for our kids and grandkids. Not my kids, but, you get the picture. But yeah, the Tour, whatever his nickname, Big E. Isn't there a pancake connection somewhere in there?
Yeah, they play trombones and they have.
Okay, yeah, so, all right. But anyway, yeah, so I think it's great. I think it's really great.
Two-part question about Kent State. They have a lot of weapons in the rushing attack. What have you seen from that side of the ball to where they're able to have that much success defensively? Their defensive backs. What do your receivers need to do in order to have success?
Okay, yeah, they do a good job of really making you defend the entire field. They spread things out pretty well. They got good skill guys out there. The roster just overall, high school guys recruited, and the quarterback was under-recruited from right there in Lorain County, not too far from Kent. And then they've got a lot of transfer guys too, and they picked up guys and benefited from that regard from all kinds of schools, Penn State, Syracuse, go right down the list. So, but they make you defend the entire field. Their backs do a good job. I mentioned their line, is well coached, and then the quarterback, he'll keep it and take it. In the run game, he'll hand it off, and they're pretty fearless with their tempo. I mean, they're not, they played down at Texas A&M and. They just went right after him. Took the ball right down the field and ended up getting a field goal the first drive. So they just make you defend everything. So everybody's got to be on task. It's not the same as the last 2 weeks, but similar. And then their corners are just, they're opportunistic. They're where they should be, and if the ball's in the air, they're going after it. And tips, those types of things, they're going to get it. But they're good, aggressive players.
Question about the offense. Within the offense, third down conversions have been a problem these first 2 weeks. What do you make of that, and what does the team need to do in order to make sure that you hit on those at a higher clip this Saturday?
Yeah, that's an area obviously we want to do better in, and that's part of our whole offensive production. Two of the biggest stats are going to be a third down, staying on the field, and then the other part is getting down in the red zone and getting touchdowns, not just field goals. So, and again, it depends on the game. Like the other day, field goals were really important, and what have you. But last year we did a nice job of really, doing a good job. Ended up with touchdowns instead of just, field goals in that red zone. And then conversely, defense, you're trying to do the opposite. But, that's an area we're going to try to keep working on and, protect a little better and do a little better job getting open and then making those conversions.
How was you?
We had one the other day. I think we missed it. Was it a 3rd and 15 where we had a chance to convert it? And, those are plays we got to make. We have to make those plays. Moving forward, we may not get away with that next time.
And how would you evaluate Spencer Peters after the first 2 weeks? I mean, obviously maybe the production hasn't been there, but he's protected the ball, and it seems like he's managed the game pretty well against Utah.
Yeah, and protecting that ball is really important. I didn't see the game last night, but I was told 2 turnovers, I think, per ball in the losing team. And, that's a formula that just doesn't change. And I know it's not very popular, and, you don't get a lot of points for that, but there's a lot to be said for that if you're smart with the football. You can't do it at the cost of just being so conservative. You're afraid to do anything. That doesn't work either. But there's a fine line there. So I think Spencer's done a good job of that. Every player's got plays they'd love to have over again. He's got a few from last week, but I think it was another step in development and growth, playing in a tough environment, tough defensive team, and they gave us some wrinkles expectedly. We didn't know what to expect, but we expected some things that maybe we hadn't seen, and they did a good job with that, and they seem to do that all the time. So I thought he handled it pretty well, and it's just kind of like our whole team. I think we're going to grow, but thinking, hoping, wishing, all that stuff doesn't really count. We got to get that done, and that's kind of what we're focusing on right now.
You look at a couple of the sacks he took that were probably a little bit late and makes your offensive line look a little bad. What do you tell him to do, or what does Ken and Brian and he tell himself to do to speed up things and even throw the ball away, and of course so you don't get a grounding call?
Being a former line coach, I'm a little sensitive to that at times, so yeah, there are times where you just but it's easier. I've learned this in my career. It's a lot easier to think, hey, we got to get it out of there, and you're the guy back there with the ball. It's a little different, and sometimes it's just you're waiting for something to develop, and it doesn't quite get there at the time you'd like it too. And it's a real fine line, but that's part of the process. And I think it's part of our whole team right now. Just it's not just that one spot, but it's a whole team just doing things a little crisper, a little more, sharper on detail, those types of things. And what I do feel good about right now, I feel like we've got the right guys, after going through a couple game weeks and going through the August preseason. I think we have enough to end up being a good offensive team. We're not there yet, but I think we have that. And so it's just a matter of us really getting it done on a day-by-day process, not just week to week, but a day-by-day process. And hopefully I'm right, and we'll find out here in the next month or so where we're at.
You mentioned last week, the aggressiveness level, I guess, differentiates, of course, on time, down and distance, location, score, all those types of things. In the second half, are there any discussions in a game like either of the first 2 weeks of, hey, protecting the ball is number one, is the priority here, throw it away, don't worry about it, versus if you're down 4 with 4 minutes to go, let it fly. I mean, do you have those discussions with him?
Oh, well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's just, we're all talking that way, and just I think we all know each other well enough to understand. And the way the game was going Saturday, what you don't want to do is blow an opportunity and start getting reckless or whatever for statistics or whatever. I mean, things could have fallen through, but our defense was playing pretty well. We're doing a good job in the special teams, and the clock was really our friend, and ball possession was our friend. And, we'd like to run the ball better in that second half. We didn't do that. At some point, we're going to have to get better at that in those kinds of situations. But the biggest things that would have screwed Saturday up was us turning the ball over in that second half. So there was no need to be reckless or crazy at that point, and that could blow up in your face too. But it just sometimes you go with the feel of the game. There's some games where you just you feel like the momentum's going a certain way, and you play to that circumstance.
Okay, thank you.